All right, time for another draftphysics.com, debatephysics.com also. But, yeah, just can't get the argument, counter argument. The best that shows up is some Bobby guy put some comment in the last video saying something like, you just made up that stuff about the third law and kinetic energy. And it's like, no, it's a description of reality. The gun, for example. I mean, the third law says equal and opposite actions, reactions. And clearly, when a gun goes off, there's nothing equal. 2,000 joules goes out one end, 2 joules goes the other way. All right? A cannon, doesn't matter what it is. And their argument is it's real energy. The bullet is really 2,000 times more energy. They're basically arguing that if the bullet and the gun collided, the bullet has 2,000 times the energy. That somehow it'll knock the gun, shoot it. Tremendous, victory for the bullet. Because it has so much energy. And so much more energy. And yeah, the simple argument, that's clearly violates Newton's third law. There's no argument to be had. All right, so Sabine Hossenfelder has made a response to the Professor Dave guy, except she doesn't say his, she doesn't reference him. It's just kind of funny. And, she's basically asserting whatever her complaint is regarding something called the foundations of physics. But that doesn't have anything to do with all the stuff that is the foundations of physics. Wave particle, kinetic energy, and relativity, in the sense of the cause of gravity. That's the foundations of physics. Charge, even, you could include. You could even argue, debate about the strong force would be relevant to the foundations of physics because it goes all the way back to Maxwell and the idea that, the invention of positive and negative charges and the simple idea that, well, if you want to get two positive charges really close together, you don't need a strong force. You just stick a negative charge between the two positive charges and you've accomplished your task. That's the foundations of physics. Basic functions like energy, matter, what is force, that kind of thing. But not by her vocabulary. The foundations of physics is the measurement problem and I can't remember what the other ones are. So we'll play the video. But, so anyway, so basically, look, she's complained that she was in academic physics, whatever that is, commercial physics, who knows, and she failed. And she was a dupe, and she was a sucker. And she played that game, and now she just talks shit on the internet. So that's how she makes her money now. So she's just exploiting whatever she can exploit. And it's really not about any recognition of whether or not the physics is any good, the science is any good. It's just about how it's treating her, frankly. So just another... the problem with physics, the problem with physics is physicists. And the fact that they really don't give a shit about any kind of idea of what science is supposed to be. Which is not just making crap up. And that's, she almost implies that's what she's saying, but she's really just saying, I don't know. You can't really, it's not that she's talking as if she's saying something direct, and there's nothing direct here. So anyway, I mean, the whole fact is that of course, the science can't do anything because all the things it believes in don't exist. There isn't any of this magical stuff. This entanglement stuff doesn't exist. This Heisenberg crap doesn't happen. And you have energy all wrong, and there's no quarks, and there's no Higgs field, and you're never going to do anything with these neutrinos. So it's all bullshit. I mean, even the whole stupid fusion thing, it's not going to go anywhere because, frankly, you don't make energy by pushing things together. You make energy, you release energy by breaking things apart. The sun is the example. The sun is being pushed together by gravity, getting very hot in the process. and now it can release the energy gravity put in.
T.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move on to the video. So I have to hit something here. I'm tired. I believe that'll do, and it did do. Good enough. All right. So, I got rid of the beginning because it's just just mushy bush, and this is where she starts to explain the problem, whatever the fuck that is.
For the centuries of oppression, cultural erasure, and systemic inequality.
Oh, she's making a joke. Oh, like I'm reading the wrong script, so I don't know what that's all about. It was some speech made by somebody apparently she didn't like. Hitler? I don't know.
Wrong script, sorry. Okay, forget nuance, I'm not good at it. Why the fuck is it?
Yes, you're good at bullshit. So nuance, bullshit might be the same thing. Might be synonyms in this case.
My fault that cranks think I'm their best friend.
So, and who cares, right? I mean, the crank theories are on their face exactly deserving of ridicule just because they are such lies and so preposterous. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times you explain the actual physics, they're going to say something like, there were explosives on the plane that crashed into the towers, or some kind of crap. And it's just crap. Like, you need explosives? The plane's going 350 miles an hour into a building and full of fuel, and you need explosives? No, you don't need any explosives. It's just so fucking stupid. And the flat earth stuff is all made out of stuff like that. Some little crap image where a reflection happens or a distortion. You explain it to them, and it doesn't matter. They'll still use the same image the next day because they don't care about the truth. And they're at this tiny percentage of the human population that is foolish enough to be fooled by that kind of crap. I mean, this is, again, like worrying about Scientology or something, like it's going to take over the world. When Scientology is as big as the Catholic Church, well, then you got to worry. Why don't you attack the Catholic Church? That's the one to worry about. But anyway. Continue.
Because I'm pointing out that there's no progress in the foundations of physics.
Okay, there's no progress in the foundation of physics. What the hell does that mean? Isn't the foundations like you found the foundations and you don't make any progress on the foundations? What you establish, water's wet, then you move on to some other subject. Like, what can we do with wetness? But the foundations can't do anything. What are the foundations supposed to grow into? You're supposed to accurately define the elemental substance. The point is you haven't accurately defined it. That's the fucking problem, is that you don't have any rational foundation. Wave particle is not rational. Bent space as an answer isn't rational. That's your problem.
It's a fact. We haven't made progress.
What does that mean again? What progress are you supposed to be making out of the elemental function? What exactly? Once we know it's 9.8 meters per 1 second, what progress do you make? I mean, how do you, what progress do you make in describing that more better? 9.8.3264, I mean, extra decimal? What are you talking about? What progress are you talking about? There's no progress. If you could accurately describe the elemental functions, then you don't have to make any progress on the elemental functions. You make some progress in terms of all the emergent possibilities that grow out of those foundations. But the foundations are, by definition, elemental. They're the simple bricks.
In theory development.
Theory development about what? What?
For 50 years, we still use the quantum field theory of the...
So, and we still use, period. You got to question, well, yeah, but that doesn't work. It's not complete. It doesn't include anything, magnetism, charge, anything, really. It doesn't really explain anything. It's not a model where you can just plug it in and watch it happen. So, obviously, it doesn't demonstrate the reality. So obviously you're using something that's just a placeholder for the foundations of physics. You haven't described the foundations of physics. Quantum field theory isn't the foundations of physics.
Standard model.
The standard model clearly is just a pile of mush. What the hell is it? It's a bunch of mushy ideas about some gluon-y thing and some other bizarre particles with all these bizarre features that has nothing to do with anything foundation or more specifically anything elemental. There's nothing simple about it. And so it breaks the whole evolutionary rules. The evolution basically says we're made out of simpler and simple things. We get to compounds and then single atoms, and then electrons and protons. It gets simpler. It doesn't get more complicated.
Which dates to the 1970s, and we still use general relativity, which is more than a century old.
And so again, she keeps defending general relativity as the right answer, as the truth, as some sort of establishment of the foundations of physics. She thinks it's absolutely brilliant. She thinks Einstein was entirely correct, that somehow we should be thinking about the force of gravity as if it's not a force. We should be thinking the Earth's surface is pushing up constantly or something. I mean, she just made a video about all that stupid crap. How gravity's not a force. That's your very argument. That's why it can't go anywhere, because it doesn't make any fucking sense. It's not a real thing. How can you build any kind of physics out of an explanation that doesn't explain anything? It says this magical something, the bent nothing, forces things to gain momentum and melt the center of the Earth. Yeah, but it's not free energy. Even though the Earth's center is melted as a fact by the force, somehow it's conservative. Somehow the force goes back into the bent geodesic, even though you have nothing. No, not even an attempt to explain how that's possible.
Yes, some measurements confirm these theories.
So whatever that means, some measurements. So everything counts as a measurement, everything counts as a photograph. So they spend 2 years synthesizing a picture of a black hole. That is, they didn't take a picture of anything. They made the picture over a 2-year period out of data, okay? And they call it a photograph. It's not a photograph. It's not any of these things. So this whole idea that they've done some measurement to prove any of this crap is so suspect because they haven't measured anything. The fact is they've never measured 4 pounds dropped 1 foot and 1 pound dropped 4 feet. They haven't bothered measuring it. What's the impact? Is it the same amount of energy? Your theory says it is. You think you would have done the experiment to show that it is. Have you? No.
More recent. The heavy quarks were only measured in the 19...
So measured. So the quarks were measured. There was no measurement of anything called a quark. All right. What they measured was an electron's deflection. And they made up a story about why it was deflected, because it hit a quark. That's actually their story. Their story is they watch how much an electron is deflected when it hits into a proton. And they decide that depending on how it deflects, that's what it hit. So if it deflects up, okay, that's an up quark. It hit. If it deflects down, it's a down quark. If it goes sideways, well, then it's a strange quark. I mean, it's just bullshit. Silly bullshit. These aren't real measurements of anything. Like Stern-Gerlach is, we're measuring the spin of an electron. There's no fucking goddamn argument that the frickin' things flying through the experiment are electrons. They're frickin' silver atoms. They're not measuring the spin of any frickin' electron. So every time they say the word measurement, you have to say, oh, bullshit, here it comes. Here comes a big pile of crap about how they measured something. They didn't measure it with a rational ruler or a sensible scale.
90s and the Higgs in 2012. The cosmological constant made a comeback, neutrino masses were confirmed, and
neutrino masses were confirmed. I mean, the existence of a neutrino is completely doubtable. It's just, again, another mathematical artifact from mv squared. So if you take an mv squared out of particle physics, there's no room for the neutrino anymore because there's no extra energy. All right, so it doesn't exist. These are all artifacts of bad foundations. They have a lousy understanding of the elemental universe, and that's what all of this crap is the byproduct of.
Gravitational waves were eventually...
So she sits there and she has a video on her own channel explaining how, gee, this is really thin science. This gravitational wave detection shit. So why don't you remake a video pointing out how, oh, it's really solid science? You know, why be a hypocrite? Don't sit there and tell me that, oh, we can have great confidence that everything they say about measuring the width, 1,000th the size of a proton, they can measure with their ruler. Any of that crap is real. Oh, you're just such a duplicitous hypocrite.
Directly detected.
Directly detected. Again, what's the point? This is not the definition of direct detection. Bouncing photons 800 times between two mirrors. It's hardly something you call a direct detection.
But the theories for all that are from the 1970s or earlier. And
it's all from the 1930s or earlier. It started, look, you got, the license to talk shit started with Leibniz and the living force. Every scientist right away should have said, what the fuck? I don't even want to talk about something called the living force as a physical concept. I mean, that's right there. We're already in trouble. And so show me. They didn't show anything. There's no evidence. You don't need evidence for theory. That was the whole problem. Their physics turned into, we don't need any evidence. Who needs evidence? We don't even need to draw you a picture. We don't have to show you a model. We don't have to show you anything. We can just make sparkly light and say, see, it's like the sparkly light. It's fun and magical.
Problems we're trying to solve today are even older than that.
So what problems are you trying to solve? So did you make it clear what the problem was? No, there's no explanation of the problem. The problem is your theory is all made out of mush. The standard model isn't explaining atoms. It's not explaining magnetism. It's not explaining charge. It doesn't explain anything.
This dark matter, how do we quantize gravity?
So all of this crap, dark matter, what the fuck? You can't interject it into the model and make any sense out of it. When it would disrupt things. So where the hell is it? And how does it know not to be in your birthday cake? You cut a slice of birthday cake and it has a big hunk of dark matter in it.
What's a measurement? These are from the 1930s.
So again, and there's no even argument about a measurement. A measurement is just saying, it doesn't matter whether we throw light at something to see it and then have the light reflect into a piece of film. The process is exactly the same if I don't have film in the camera. If I don't even have a camera, the process is still the same. So every time something is hit by a force, it's being measured. Okay? No one wrote down the measurement. No one took an image of the measurement, but it's still being measured. And so the fact is, nothing can be entangled because gravity is constantly measuring it. The heat in the universe is constantly measuring everything you do. And you have to have a position because you have to create a reflection from a position. You can't create a reflection from all your positions. You can only create a reflection from the one place that you are. And the fact that we can't see all of that gives them an excuse to create a bunch of wooey ghost particles.
American students were studying how many live goldfish they could swallow, and no one
Oh, yeah, who cares? Yeah, so what? So college is bullshit. Gee, newsflash, not.
Asked for an ethics approval. That's how old these problems are. The problem is not that 50 years is a long time, not just because I was born in the 1970s and find that offensive, but also...
I don't even know what that means, but shit. I was born in the 1950s. Yeah, I've seen nothing but the world go to shit from 1969, peak moment on Earth, landing on the moon, Walter Cronkite, peak moment and all downhill from there. I like to say 77, 78, that we still were doing okay into the 70s, that disco, the signs of digression had started, but it was still pretty good times. And then everything, Ronald Reagan and the world just completely turned into pus.
Also because it's plausible that progress slows down as a discipline becomes more mature. Problems become more difficult.
So let's just understand that really this is a model, and every improvement you make to it should be obvious and clear. Okay, it's like just putting puzzle pieces together, and it should get really obvious when you got the right pieces in the right place, and you know it all will fit, and it'll all say, oh, that's very coherent. And I'll just make the argument that, yeah, my model's just like that. You get one piece and explains another piece, explains another piece, explains another piece. It just all starts to fit together. And then you realize something obvious that everybody, I mean, I should have realized it, you know, decades ago, that gravity is obviously heating objects. It's melting them, okay? Every single big thing in space has a molten core. And it's not molten for no reason. It's molten because of the gravitational pressure. Right there, you know it's not a bent geodesic. Because if you believe in energy conservation, you know, hey, that's all the same as momentum. I mean, heat is momentum. I mean, there's no other way to think about it. You make heat using something's momentum. I mean, it's this obvious. You make heat by using something's momentum.
The easy things have been done. Experiments take longer.
So you haven't done any of the basic experiments, never repeated the most famous experiment that made Einstein credible, the Eddington experiment, never successfully repeated on Earth outside the margin of error, and never even attempted from space. 400 times better resolution. In all reasonable probability, you should be able to use your images of Jupiter. When the probes went by Jupiter, there's images they took that should be showing lensing, if it was real. Which it's not. Because you can't give a photon two momentums. It can't go the speed of light this way and some other speed this way. It can't do that. It's not a baseball.
And become more expensive. No, the problem is not that it's taking so long. The problem is that physicists have tried to make progress with methods that have failed over and over again.
So there's only one method. You know, Feynman described it. I mean, you just have to make guesses. You have to just keep redrawing it and drawing it and drawing it and drawing it until you figure out, oh, this one works. I'm sorry, that's the way it works. I mean, frankly, there's no other way to do it than to kind of you know what you're after, and you're saying, how do I get there? I mean, look, the logic is as simple as, okay, I know two protons are getting really close together in the nucleus. Well, what's the simplest solution to getting two protons close together in a nucleus? Well, stick an electron between them, and then you try it, and it works. And you say, oh, that's the answer, because it works so well. I don't need any special woo force. I don't need to invent some fake new invisible force man. Okay, just push the protons together. All I have to do is put the negative in between the two positives and they'll just fly right into each other. No problem. I mean, that's science.
50 years, and they're still doing it. They're still using methods that don't work, and they're still not learning from their mistakes.
Okay, so the methods aren't the problem. The evidence not existing is the problem. The fact that you haven't done these simple experiments, crash a 5-mass going 10 into a 10-mass going 5, and see if the 5-mass going 10 has twice the energy. Tie them to a rope and have a tug of war and see if it comes true. See if you can find some place on this planet where it takes 25 times the fuel to move something 5 times as fast, or where something going 5 times as fast does 25 times the work. Find an example, but you can't, because your beliefs are wrong. Your fundamental premises and axioms are all garbage. It's not about waves. It is about particles. It is about quantum. It is about the fact of light quanta. Okay, the fact is the energy is in discrete little bits, and the mass is in discrete bits. And the fact is that if you follow the MV, the whole thing works perfectly.
They aren't taking into account the evidence, which
Well, so again, the evidence. What evidence? What evidence are you talking about? These obscure, complex, bizarrely complex experiments. Again, bouncing light back and forth between mirrors and telling me that you know exactly where it reflected inside the mirror? You know exactly what atom, no, what electron the photon bounced off of? Oh, the hell you do.
clearly shows that their methods are not working. And that's a failure of science to self-correct.
Okay, so it's not about self-correcting, it's about open discussion, and you don't have any open discussions, and all of these axioms are established, and then you call everybody, anyone who attacks your silly crap, your silly Einstein nonsense, a heretic, a pseudoscientist, a science denier, a religious kook, even though they're not the ones that are doing the religious kookery. They're not the ones defending a dogma. They're defending the idea that you should be able to show me. Okay, don't tell me there's positrons. Show me a positron.
This is why this worries me so much. It shouldn't happen. It's a community of tens of thousands of physicists in
Yeah, brainwashed Catholics. It's a community of Catholics, and it's just amazing that they don't come up with any good ideas. Well, it's not amazing because they're fucking Catholics and they think, all kinds of wacky shit. They think smoking urns do something. Like somehow God likes when you walk down the aisle with a smoking urn. That somehow purifies something. They think they're drinking God's blood or something and eating his bones. I mean, of course they can't come up with anything useful because they're idiots, and that's all that science has become, physics. They're idiots because their axioms are crap.
intelligent people, mostly, who have for half a century used methods that evidently do not work.
So again, she keeps talking about the methods. What's the methods? The methods is exactly the nonsense of convoluted mathematical crap. I mean, they don't follow the evidence. They don't follow the experiments. They just invent fake, phony bullshit. The strong force. Not a great answer. Oh, there's this new fake strong thing that pushes the protons together. Is that a great answer? And then when you ask for more detail, you say, well, what kind of bullshit is that? Then they invent a particle called a gluon that somehow, okay, like a frog's tongue, it shoots itself. It goes and hits the other thing and then pulls it back to where it was. They invent the whole thing. It's all bullshit. It's all just a canard, a big fat pile of shit. It's a hobgoblin theory.
And they continue to do it. What are those methods? Well,
Invent something called dark, and then run away. The dark did it. The bent did it. The wavicle.
well, I
The waveaton.
explained that in my book with
So again, then now she starts talking about this stupid book. So she titles her book Lost in Math, and she says, well, it's not about how math has gotten convoluted and pointless. No, math is really great. It's just that they didn't use the right formulas. I don't know. I don't even know what she's arguing.
great nuance, but to make a long story short, they basically guess maths, which they like for one reason or another. And to the extent that this maths made
Whatever this math word is anyway. So they invent a formula, she's saying, out of nothing. Now, I don't think they invented out of nothing, but whatever. But this is what Einstein did, right? Einstein was given the chore, explain the perihelion in Mercury's orbit, blah, 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 blah. And so he took 6 months and got, Max Born and whoever, somebody else to help him do the math. And then he came back with this convoluted field equation that nobody can really, nobody wants to waste, days of their life trying to figure out what exactly how do you even solve the stupid thing. And all it really is saying is I can fuck up the sun and that'll fuck up Mercury. So if I can fuck up the sun, I can make it move, okay, by putting a bunch of abstractions on its motion. I can create enough disturbance to create a mess out of Mercury's orbit, but it won't mess up the Earth because the Earth is so much further away. So only things close get fucked up. Anything far away doesn't get fucked up. And that's all he did. He contrived bullshit.
Viable predictions, they've been falsified, like grand unified theories and supersymmetric models.
So whatever, grand unified theories, what are you talking about? You know, where has anybody proposed any grand unifying theory that has something to do with elemental simple physics? There isn't any. Me and nobody else. Nobody's presenting a simpler model. It's all jellyfish and strings and orchestras and all kinds of bullshit. All kinds of wooey bullshit. Hyperboloids.
And so on. So what's left now are the unfalsifiable ideas like multiverses and string theory. And
so again, more of this stuff. Okay, yes, somebody can invent a silly answer to a simple question. So yes, the multiverse is just like saying God done it. That's no better. It's not an explanation of anything. It's not even trying to explain anything. It's just running away from the obligation to explain, and just creating a fake. You know, like I said, why not? Invisible dimensions are no worse than invisible men. So yes, you're just saying the invisible man is hiding in the invisible dimension.
Inflation and so on. And there is always new maths they can guess. This method of theory development isn't scientific. Please.
So again, 1/2 mv squared. It originally started as living force. Leibniz pushed it. Huygens first said it, but Huygens pushed it. There's no good reason to believe it. There was no evidence compelling belief. There was no reason to think it was true. Something as simple as a lever was overtly saying it can't be true. And they believed it. Garbage formula with no evidence supporting it. And it was accepted by physics. Explain why. And that goes right to Deschartelet and the silly denting clay with round objects. Or rolling something and saying, well, look, twice the velocity rolls 4 times as far. Well, that's right, because twice the velocity means you'd have a lot less friction at the higher velocity. So you'd lose your energy a lot less quickly. And so it takes twice the time to go 4 times the distance. Twice the time. Meaning you got twice the force. Meaning you lost twice the energy. So twice the velocity was twice the energy. And it takes 4 times the distance to suck it out of you. Because at the higher velocity, the friction, the amount of energy you can lose to friction declines because the object can't push in as hard. It can't weigh as much. It can't connect to the surface as well and lose its energy to the surface. Very simple explanation. It's clearly an absolute proof, in my opinion, for anybody fair and rational. That it absolutely proves the point. Okay, once you accept that friction isn't linear, okay, that it changes with velocity, once you acknowledge that fact, game over.
Please imagine scientists in any other discipline worked like that. Biologists inventing new species.
Right, exactly. So because they don't have theoretical biologists, they don't have theoretical chemists, they don't put this silly word theoretical in front of them. They actually have to produce a reasoned argument with evidence if they're going to suggest something. There's no point in suggesting it even if they can't show some sort of geology or some sort of evidence in the archaeology or some sort of evidence from somewhere indicating the theory might be true. They can't get away with just making crap up that's completely beyond our capacity to test. And beyond our willingness to test. Again, they've never tested 1/2 mv squared. And every time it has been tested with a ballistic pendulum, for example, it's failed the test dismally. Every single one of those tests, it fails dismally.
species and then making expeditions to find them. Chemists inventing a hidden dark sector of the periodic table.
So why don't you be clear? So why don't you put all these other stuff on the table? Bent space. If you're going to talk about dark matter and dark energy and all this other crap, why don't you go right back to the first violation against reason, which was saying bent geodesic in the first place? What the fuck is that as an answer? Yeah, we already know it's the inverse square law. Photons are doing the same exact thing in reverse coming out of the frickin' sun as the inverse square law. It's the same goddamn thing. We don't call it a bent geodesic. We don't say the bent geodesic is causing the photons to spread with distance. Shit.
Neurologists arguing it'd be pretty if
it's just a convergence versus a divergence. The stuff going out versus stuff coming in. Gravity is stuff going in, kind of obviously. Photons are stuff going out. Duh.
synaptic connections followed the E8 root diagram and then putting people into MRI machines to search for it. Sounds insane? Well, that's what it is. Yeah.
Well, they do that, though. The fact is that's part of science, is also trying all kinds of silly shit. The blue LED wouldn't gotten invented if people didn't try things that didn't seem like it was going to work, but they said, what the hell, let's try it.
In the foundations of physics, that's what they're doing. And if you ask them, they'll tell you that this is good science and that the only problem they have is people who lack nuance. Well,
whatever. So, this whole argument is this is an argument about what happened 300 years ago. The difference between physics for Galileo, Descartes, and Newton, that is physics where there was a lot of people critical. You couldn't just propose some answer without everybody scrutinizing it. And that somehow, once Newton was dead, it was okay to just make up crap. And you didn't have to prove anything, and you didn't have to do any experiments, any credible experiments. You could do show experiments. You could do smoke and mirror experiments and fool everybody.
I think these past 50 years will go down as one of the most embarrassing episodes in the history of science.
Yeah, no. Like I said, the embarrassing moment is Deschartelet getting away with denting clay with round objects. A physicist should be able to figure out that that won't work, that it's not a fair fight. The faster thing is going to displace more clay because it's not going to be pushing the clay in the same direction. It's going to be pushing more clay sideways than it is down. Down is the bad stuff. Pushing down means you have to do twice the work. You have to push down and then you have to push the clay sideways. It's twice as much work.
I can't stop physicists from continuing this insanity, but I can distance myself.
So more of that crap, yes. And so this whole distancing herself. So what she's distancing herself from? Who the fuck knows? The select number of theories she doesn't have any confidence in. So she'll distance herself from string theory because she didn't think much of that. Okay. I don't know if she'll distance herself from. She's kind of wishy-washy on the whole. 1 minute she's making a video saying that they're not going to be able to do this fusion thing, and the next minute, yeah, they are. They're making progress. Same thing with the quantum crap, quantum computer. 1 minute it's this is going nowhere, the funding's drying up, blah blah blah, and the next minute, they're making new progress. They got they got the computer to vomit, and so that must mean it's still the quantumness is working.
So from it, and I can draw attention to the problem, and that's what I'm doing.
Whatever. I don't. What problem did she draw attention to? Does anybody really understand what the fuck the problem is she's talking about? Yeah, sorry. I mean, the Weinstein guy is talking about the fact that, none of this fits together, and he's proposing his own geometric unity horse crap that nobody can possibly understand as some sort of unification answer. But the fact is that it's the lack of unification. It's the lack of consistency with the simplicity of Newton. MV, 3 laws of motion. I mean, it was really simple. And they have turned it into all of this gluon, pooon, zooon bullshit.
The reason this worries me so much is that I think this is a systemic problem caused by the way we organize academic research.
No, it's caused by the fact that your science isn't science. The fact that you didn't even fix Benjamin Franklin's honest mistake. I mean, he made an honest mistake. He assigned positive and negative inversely. To be really coherent with rational electromagnetic theory, you really should have to accept that the electron should be assigned with the positive notation, because it is the electrons that are the player, okay, in the motion. What gets added or subtracted from objects is electrons, not protons. So they should be the thing that's positive. To have voltage and amperage go the same way in the wires, you need the electrons to have the positive notation.
This means it can happen in other disciplines, and probably does happen. This is why I don't trust scientists.
So whatever that even means, I don't trust scientists. Why should you trust anybody? But I mean, trust them to what? Trust them to accurately describe? So if they would accurately describe, instead of saying we proved, and they said, well, we have a very convoluted experiment that gives us some indication or wish to believe, blah, 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 blah. But we know they lie. So if they're going to lie about what the double slit experiment actually produces as a result, they're going to sit there and say it's just like waves in water when it's nothing like waves. Single slits in water don't make any pattern. I mean, all of the outrageous lying and deception, photo detector experiments they never did, calling electron scatter off of a piece of nickel a two-slit experiment when there's no slits. No way it's a comparable experiment. I mean, it's all the lying that's the problem. We proved, we demonstrated, we did it, okay, and they did it out of something so convoluted and mushy that it can't be examined. Again, they can't show you a picture of a frickin' quark. They won't even show you the pattern of the deflected electrons that made them think there's a quark. They don't even show you that. They show you nothing. They just say, trust me. Why should we?
I can't, because I've seen in my own field that thousands of them might pursue for decades what's obviously pseudoscience, like arguments from naturalness or the so-called WIMP miracle. Hell, just the names tell you that this isn't...
Yeah, so they like something because it's a beautiful... That's the whole Dirac thing. So I'm sure she's a whore for Dirac's bullshit. Again, all this, the whole thing, this made-up theory of some sort of antimatter, it's all crap. So what the, and so somehow she's sitting here hugging crap that's just as crappy as the crap she's calling crap. So it just makes her such a hypocrite and a duplicitous shit talker to sit there and say there's something wrong with that crappy physics when the crap she's saying is good physics is just as crappy. There's no distinction from a rational perspective.
Science. It's numerology, like, the diameter of the pyramids in inches is 660 times the square root of my little finger. And again, you don't have to take my word for this. It's all in the published literature. Do you remember?
And again, what's in the published? Where's the evidence? Okay, and the Eddington experiment, again, 400 times better resolution from space. Takes 5 minutes to do the experiment, literal truth. It could cost as little as a few $1,000, okay, for NASA to do it. I mean, they've never even tried it. What the fuck? How can you take that science seriously when they don't care that much about evidence? They're that disinterested in creating evidence.
Remember how physicists were arguing that the LHC would see evidence for supersymmetry?
So more of this crap, this LHC seeing anything. We never see what they get to see, okay? So they have this $1 trillion detector device, billions of this, all this crap, all this fucking shit. Do they show you any evidence that did any of this shit, that any of this shit could mean anything? No. Why do they believe this crap?
Before it turned on didn't happen. Did you hear any of them explaining why they were wrong? No.
So again, she's going to point out right here in this video that string theory is an American thing, that it really wasn't a thing anyway, so why is anybody even worried about it? Yeah, it didn't consume anybody's time or resources, so this whole thing is hype. But somehow string theorists distracted everybody? Who did they distract? Who paid any attention? They did, they didn't spend $1 million on string theory, let alone billions of dollars. I mean, what a part! Well, I should play that part.
I haven't either, and I really think they should find out what went wrong there before asking for money to build an even larger collider to look for more stuff that doesn't exist.
So now she's complaining because the string theorists are saying they should build another collider. I'm sure there's other morons saying we should build another collider, all right, even though none of what colliders have done has any value at all. It didn't fix anything. It didn't make anybody wiser or smarter. Believing in a gluon doesn't solve any problems. All of that crap is just that crap. You can do perfectly good science without ever believing in anything called a quark or a positron or a neutrino. None of that crap has anything to do with really understanding how something physically works. Because nothing physically works with that crap.
I don't blame individual physicists or research directions that this happened, and this is where I disagree with Eric Weinstein. I believe that the problem is caused by community reinforcement and the way that academia is funded.
No, I believe that you're just demonstrating that intelligence doesn't breed integrity, and people are innately, apparently, religious kooks, and they want silly theories. They want fucking girly answers to the questions of reality. They want to put this. They want their silver lining. They want a religion, and that's what they turned physics into, a dogmatic, silly, fucktarded religion.
I don't want to go into this now, but let me know in the comments if you want to hear details. Eric is one...
Please, details would be great about what the fuck you're talking about. And is it some abstract crapola that you're going to make your argument about? Or is it, are you going to be rational and say the problem with physics is it has so many axioms that are completely wrong? It doesn't know a wave from a particle. It doesn't know energy from energy. Okay, it thinks there's momentum and energy. They're like different things. They think there's something called a scalar energy, whatever the fuck that could possibly mean. There's speed without direction. Yes, that's right. There's speed and it doesn't have a direction. That's what we believe. And you fucking morons aren't just saying, oh, shouldn't I just push that off the desk as soon as they start saying something this fucking stupid that you can have speed with no direction? Shouldn't I just slide it off the desk? Aren't we done having a conversation between honest people? How can any honest person say there's any fucking reason to ever believe there's a velocity or a speed and it doesn't have a direction? Who the fuck could believe that? Honestly believe it.
One of the few people who sees the problem in the foundations of physics for what it is. He's drawn attention to it.
Oh, what a pile of crap that is. So again, she's telling us she sees the problem and she can't articulate it. His argument is that we need a savior. This is the funny part. We need some individual to show up to rewrite the story because the story is full of shit. That's his argument. I mean, his argument really is that we just have to wait for Einstein to show up and fix it, which is, so ironic. He thinks he's the Weinstein-Einstein replacement, but no. Yeah, it's because the truth has arrived, all right? They don't know it yet, but yes, it's here, okay? I have presented it to you.
And he understands how serious the situation is. However,
So this is more bullshit, how serious the situation is. Yes, that you've wasted the last 200 years talking shit. And so the physics is nonsense. Now, the science of technology isn't, okay? The fact that we figured out how to do assembly lines, we figured out how to make stainless steel, we figured out how to do this, and figured out how to do that, that doesn't have anything to do with neutrinos and all this black hole crap and all the other crap that they've invented into science. Figuring out whether there was a Big Bang or not doesn't have a goddamn fucking thing to do with the speed of your computer.
seems to think the problem was caused by string theorists. I
Which is such a ludicrous pile of shit.
don't find this very convincing because string theory hype was a very American phenomenon.
Okay, so there she mentioned it earlier. Why? Why did you even bother mentioning it? Because you know it's a trivial part of physics. It doesn't have anything to do with anything real. I mean, this is just telling a story about three physicists who rubbed each other's heinies somewhere, and that's it. I mean, it's not even worth mentioning as part of the history of science, mentioning string theory, because it was so irrelevant.
And at least from my admittedly European perspective, particle phenomena.
I mean, it wasn't what they called it. They said it's some sort of beautiful math and beautiful this, and they can't show anybody this. I mean, I haven't seen any evidence whatsoever that has anything to do with reality. Well, you can have a worm that wiggles linear, or you can have a circle worm. So there's two kinds of worms at the origin of the universe. There's circular worms and then wiggling worms. I mean, it's just too fucking silly.
Phenomenology, supersymmetry in particular, were far worse. So I don't blame string theorists. Ultimately, I don't know what caused the problem.
The cause of the problem is the fact that you have a foundation that's bullshit and doesn't require anything to be rigorously connected or testable. So again, you can just keep talking crap about, well, there's this thing on, the event horizon on a black hole, and it stores all the information as a hologram. And you can just make up a whole fucking pile of crap.
I can only speculate. But it's not a speculation that we do have a crisis in the...
She keeps saying it. There's a crisis. What's the crisis? Except the fact that you have every single foundational statement wrong.
Foundations of physics. It's a fact that we haven't made progress with theory development.
So what does that even mean? Theory development. What is your goal? Explain to me what's missing. Because all you have is a wooey theory. What is it supposed to produce? Just explain to me what is your Copenhagen interpretation supposed to be producing.
50 years. People who work in the field will often try to tell you that, oh, we've learned this or that obscure mathematical fact, and it's all so very exciting, and soon there'll be a breakthrough, and you'll have no idea what they're talking about.
So this is exactly what the stupid, guy is doing, the Mathematica guy, that she just made a video basically applauding the effort. And she doesn't understand it. It's this convoluted mathematical shit. All right, and she applauds that effort. Why? It doesn't produce anything. He can't show you anything. You can't explain how this has something to do with the foundations of physics, or that it unifies anything or explains anything. And yet you think it's some sort of credible scientific effort. Well, explain to me why it's a credible scientific effort. I've simulated charge with, two kinds of force, two kinds of matter, and three kinds of interactions, and that's it. Reflection, absorption, and transition. That's real science. Actually doing something.
You'll think it's just over your head, so better not ask. I want to strongly encourage you. Please do ask. Ask them what it's good for. Ask them what we've learned from it. Ask them what we can do with it.
So everything she believes in and asserts, ask her, what the fuck good is it? What the fuck does it mean? How the fuck did it improve anything? How the fuck does that statement incorporate into anything called an understanding of how the universe works? Bent space, a bent nothing tells the matter what to do? How is that an explanation of anything?
It. Ask them why your taxes should pay for them producing papers. I think they owe you.
Yeah, exactly. They owe me experiments. They owe me doing the Eddington experiment from space, spending, $10,000. They owe me dropping 4 pounds 1 foot and 1 pound 4 feet. They owe me crashing cars into each other and seeing if they can find kinetic energy anywhere. That's what they owe me. And they're never going to pay off. Because the fact is the evidence will show it's all bullshit. If they do the Eddington experiment from space, they'll find out it don't fucking work.
An answer. I get hate mail every time I talk about this. Some scientists don't want me to mention this because they say it fuels the fires of science deniers.
And again, what is the threat? Show me the threat of the science denial. You have sold everybody on the bullshit. Now, the only threat that exists is you've overpromised. So you've promised us quantum computers, and you've promised, what else have they promised? It's quantum computers, and what else? Oh, that's right. There's nothing else they've promised us because there's nothing else they can do about anything in the real world because their physics is completely abstract and useless. What are they going to promise us? Oh, we'll give you an explanation for what happens when a neutron star gets the hiccups on a Thursday. And we have a theory. We have an equation for Thursdays. And it'll be very exciting. No, it won't be very exciting. So they're not going to do anything. Their physics doesn't do anything because it has nothing to do with the physical reality we live in. It's all make-believe. It's all a bunch of fables.
It does, but that's because science deniers are right when they say that academia has a big problem.
So it's not just academia. It's the whole fucking science, the encyclopedias, the Wikipedia. All of it has a big problem in that it's selling crap it never proved. It's arguing it's been proven when they haven't done the experiments. I mean, that's pretty shitty. Arguing you prove something when you really haven't is lying, for fuck's sake.
Ignoring this problem won't make it go away. We need to talk about it.
And where's the evidence you'll talk about it? There's no evidence you'll talk about any of these foundational subjects in any other context of some sort of, is your shirt maroon or is it red? Or is it purple? Or is it violet? That's what you'll argue, okay? You'll argue irrelevant crap, but you won't argue the foundations of physics. You won't argue the fact that when you say F equals ma, you're lying to say Newton said so, because Newton didn't say so.
We need to do something about it. And it should give you a pause that scientists and certain YouTubers don't want me to talk about this.
Yeah, so she's so gutless, she won't even say who the other YouTubers are who are opposing her silly anti-establishment message, I guess. It's some kind of anti-establishment message. But she hasn't even made it clear. I mean, this would be so much more interesting, or to me reasonable, if she said something like, well, 90% of the science that gets funded is science that has some sort of commercial use. Okay, it has some sort of military use. It has some sort of use to somebody who's going to exploit it for some purpose. And it doesn't really have anything to do with finding the truth or science. It just has to do with, commerce and military covert sneakery.
Because they're causing a lot of pressure on other scientists to toe the party line.
In what way? How are they pressuring you? So she's completely independent now. She has a YouTube channel that makes a ton of money. She's really secure in her presence on the internet now. It's really hard to lose popularity once you have it. And so she has very little to lose here. And so what kind of screws are they putting to her? She's afraid to name names. She's afraid to even articulate what the real problem is. She's afraid to point to the institution and say, see, look at this. Look at what they're financing. Look, they're financing this shitty, stupid satellite. They're financing this stupid, shitty satellite. When they should be financing a goddamn Eddington experiment that would cost 1/100,000th less than that stupid satellite.
I don't give a shit what others want me to say.
So you apparently do give a shit because you're sitting there being a squirrely, evasive hypocrite, sitting here saying, I don't give a shit, but I'm not going to name names because, that's scary.
Not say, as it were. But then again, I also eat instant coffee powder with it.
So a joke again, yeah. So, But yes, instant coffee is good. It's just so easy and it's so It works. It does everything you need it to do. So, it's cheap.
A spoon, so maybe I'm not a good sample group. To come back to the issue of my videos sometimes lacking nuance, which is true, I've talked about these.
So I mean, whatever that even means. Your videos lacking nuance. They're completely indecipherable, miggly, boogly, bloogly, gobbledygook. Okay, they're so nuanced, full of shit that you don't. What the fuck are you talking about? Can't you make a direct statement about what it is you find so offensive? No, she can't make the direct statement. She can't say directly, okay, except for implying that, yes, a bigger Hadron Collider would be a really bad investment. It's really expensive, and even if you found, the Miggs boson, it's not going to be of any use at all, so fuck it. There's no point in finding things that don't even exist. I mean, frankly, none of these things exist for more than a second. They don't even have a good picture of them. The whole thing is just such bullshit. Why would you even look for this crap? It really doesn't fit in the model anywhere. You can't draw me an atom with your Higgs boson in it somewhere. I mean, the whole thing is just such crap.
Problems with academia literally hundreds of times in seminars and
so she's whining when she really hasn't done any of this. So she hasn't explained any of this. What the fuck are you bitching about exactly? So there really isn't an explanation. No, she's saying, okay, it's okay to have really complex color theory about some sort of quantum half-spin theory. That's all okay. But this over here, that's not okay. But there's no explanation for how she's drawing these lines between the quackery of physics and the quackery of physics. There's no distinction by her definition. My definition is if you can't show me, fuck you, just shut up. Show me a simulation of it duplicating some phenomenon in reality, or, show me a picture. But show me.
Lectures and podcasts, I've done interviews, I've written about it,
where?
And of course I have done videos myself.
Link me to the video where you explain what exactly it is you're griping about, because I can't understand what the fuck you're talking about. What exactly about wacky physics are you complaining about? And how do I distinguish the wacky crap you think is okay from the wacky crap you don't think is okay? Please show me the picture of the bent space versus the dark matter. Explain to me how one of them is so much more obviously stupid and one of them is so much obviously smart.
And sometimes, I just get tired of repeating myself.
Whatever. Okay, so the rest of the video is just a waste of time. So I'll play it. What the fuck? Let's just get it over with.
This channel is basically my living room, and you're all my family.
Oh, blah, 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 blah. I don't even get that crap. So I've been on this internet for 20 years now, arguing arguments, okay? And the cowards just won't make anything. They won't make an argument about any of the subjects, okay? Argue the argument. Don't argue the personality. Don't argue the person. Argue the fucking argument. So what argument did she make here? There's nothing. So the only thing I can do is argue the person who's making the nothing, indistinct, indecipherable argument about how, well, it's all the fault of the thing. That thing that, the thing that is the fault of the reason it's all the thing that's not, that thing. That's the problem. The thing.
Indeed, if I record videos, I like to imagine I'm talking to my brother. My brother's an engineer and
who cares? Blah, 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 blah.
Big nerd, and he's usually interested in what I say, or at least he's good at pretending he is. So basically, I think of...
I wish I could, imagine talking to an intelligent person. But there aren't any on this planet. They're just literally, I'm sorry, they're just not any. There's nobody who can keep up with me. Nobody.
All of you as my brothers and sisters. Of course, I rationally knew that you aren't actually all my siblings, unless there's something my parents didn't tell me. But
oh, jeez, all this witticisms. Oh, God. Yuck.
This is why in videos on my own channel, I often don't repeat what I've already said a dozen times before. I find it...
So that's really weird too, because yes, her videos are, like everybody else, they get redundant. So she makes a video every 3 years, she'll just jump back to that subject again, whatever that kind of pattern is there. But whatever.
Boring, and I'm afraid you'll find it boring too. It doesn't help that I try to ignore how much this channel has grown, because I find it psychologically difficult to sit in front of a camera knowing that some 100,000 people might watch it.
Yes, I don't know why that's a problem either. So, and she's proselytizing, selling, in my opinion, crap. She's poisoning people's brains, killing, essentially, destroying the usefulness of their neurons by convincing them that her wacky beliefs, her silly little religion, has some sort of credibility when it has none.
I don't want to excuse...
Space isn't bent. Newton was right. There's 3 dimensions of absolute space, and time is just a function.
This, I just want to explain what's happening. I'm trying to balance novelty with repetition and...
Novelty with repetition. You should be balancing based on what's existing, okay? So if you're arguing for something and you see a bunch of other people saying something else, then you should argue that they're wrong and make counter arguments. So she's only done that in about 4 videos. I mean, she took on Brian Greene because he said some silly stuff, and she took on a couple other people, but that's it. 4 videos out of the 400.
I strongly rely on your feedback for this, so please do let me know.
So more bullshit that she gives a fuck about feedback or serious interaction or logic or any of that crap. I've offered her thousands of dollars to deal with the subject of Leibnizian physics versus Newtonian physics. She won't do it.
If I err into one direction or the other, because it's not intentional. That said, I think the true issue that some people have with me is not my lack of nuance. The
Yes, it's your shit talkery.
true issue they
Arrogant pontificator.
have is that I'm not a cheerleader for science. If you're looking for...
So again, I don't even know why everybody wouldn't be a cheerleader for something called science. That is investigation through evidence and reasonable deduction. That's really good stuff. So let's all be interested in finding evidence, collecting evidence, and then reasonably evaluating evidence. Let's all say I'm pro that.
Whoa, science is great, channel. You're in the wrong place.
Yeah, no, science is a lot better than religion and all the other alternatives. Evidence-driven reasoning and logic. Yay. Everybody should be for it. Okay. Faith, fuck you. And that's all that physics has become. All of it's based on faith and trust. They tell them the silly little quarks exist and they believe. They tell them it's waves that are causing fringe patterns when it's obviously point sources causing the fringe patterns. It's surfaces that are causing the entire effect. It's easily deduced to be entirely caused by interactions at the location of the surfaces.
Some of science is great, some of it isn't. And
yeah, well, why don't you articulate that? Why don't you go through the list of the science that's great and the science that sucks? And we'll see if your list has anything to do with my list. That would be interesting.
talk about both.
Yeah, you don't do anything. Yeah, you just talk shit on every fucking subject.
Simple as possible, but not any simpler.
Blah, 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 blah. And then she'll go on about brilliant now. So anyway, enough of a video, over an hour, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I think I'll just keep picking on Sabine. I think her name's Sabina, but whatever. I don't know. Must be a German thing. You don't bother writing your name completely. So it's Sabine? I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's not terribly important. Fuck. But yeah, her and Professor May would just alternate back and forth. Yeah, this isn't good science. These professors, these professional scientists suck at doing science. They suck at recognizing you should be able to establish what you're saying with credible evidence, not vague. Well, go watch the double triple entanglement experiment, the which way, whose way, anyway experiment. You know, it's got lots of smoke and mirrors. It's big fun. So bad.